you made it through that intro, then you know you're about to see something here. So the reason that intro is so long is because this is a long process. And what I'm doing in this particular video is I'm going to prep and decal the replacement cabinet. And what that means is a little bit more than it might seem at the surface. Like, okay, we're gonna put some decals on the cabinet, we're gonna put it together. Not necessarily. I mean, it's a little bit deeper than that. I've got to recondition the coin door, I've got to recondition the transformer, I've got to pick the buttons, I got to work through the trim, I've got a lot of things I got to do. It takes a lot to take one of those cabinets and turn it into what you see at the end here, which will be up on 4 legs, all its arts on it. And so with all that said, if you like the video, give it a thumbs up. These aren't necessarily how-to videos, but I do try to give you some information along the way. I'm not trying to withhold any information. Most of this information or thought process are things that I've developed myself. Nobody taught me how to do this. I taught myself how to do it. I taught myself how to take a skill set that I had and adapt it to this. And I've been doing that for 26 years. So I'm not just an expert on this, I'm an expert on other things, but you know, I just kind of melt it all together and use this as a platform to make a living. That's all it is to it. And so again, if you like the video, give it a thumbs up and let's get to work. Let's walk around this cabinet that I painted and cleared in the previous video. Just want to make sure everything's good. The biggest thing I need to check on these is typically the inside. If you're going to get a run in something, it's usually going to be on the inside, and it's just because there is a whole lot of overlap when you paint the back and then you paint the sides and then you paint the front. You're overlapping a lot of areas constantly, and obviously you're trying to work within the confines of that cabinet, which is much harder on a regular cabinet than a wide body, but all good. I kind of know what I'm doing, so I'm not too worried about it. There's a bunch of miscellaneous stuff, bolts, that backboard, which I've already revisited and painted, and that's just stuff I'll need to put this cabinet together when I'm ready. And I want to check the areas that won't be decaled, make sure they don't have any debris or any real issues across the top or the back, so I can screen print the back with the appropriate warning text. Everything looks good. That's what I'm looking for. It's pretty glossy, but I'll take that over 2 flat any day, and we'll see what it takes to get unmasked. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and get the head ready to screen print the warning text on the back, and we'll go over that process. Pretty simple. I'm going to put the jig that I made for the screen on there. I make these types of things up for anything that I do consistently often, and it just makes it where it's a lot easier to locate stuff without having to measure it every time. So once I place this, then it'll do 2 things. It'll hold the screen steady for me while I screen, and also I can easily locate it exactly where I want it to be without measuring anything. Here comes the ink. I don't put a whole lot of ink on here. Some people say you got to flood the screen and do all these things. I haven't found that, but I'm not a professional silk screener. I'm usually just silk screening this warning text or some little small design. So, you know, you can take that advice with a grain of salt as far as it goes around here. But I will say the more ink that you put on here, the bigger the cleanup too. So I'm pretty mindful of it. But we'll watch. I guess if you wanted to get technical when you see me screen it, I do technically flood the screen because I'll run over it 2 or 3 times. And that's why it's so important to me that I have a jig to where the screen can't shift or move while I'm doing it. It helps me really saturate it, but without the mess of flooding the screen and trying to place it and not get it like kind of blurry looking. That's once. Twice. Here comes number 3. Gonna press hard. Good to go. That's coming off of there. Okay, that's a good result. That's all you can ask for. Let's move on. While that head dries, I can go ahead and start prepping the lower for the decal. So what I like to do with these is sand the panels that I'm going to decal with 180. You might wonder why not something finer. Finer isn't necessarily better when it comes to this. These panels will get decaled, and so the decal tends to stick a bit better to a rougher surface, but within reason. You don't want to get super rough. But 180 seems like the sweet spot to me. You could go 240. I wouldn't go any finer than that, because what will happen is it will be more easily peeled off if it's a finer, and if you go rougher than that, then it might telegraph those scratches through the decal work. So 180 seems to be the sweet spot. Why sand it at all, you might wonder. Well, the reason for that is I want to get rid of any texture or any debris that might be in the finish, because that will show in the decal. If you decal over orange peel, you're going to have an orange peely decal. If you decal over trash, you're going to have trash in the decal. It's that simple. You got to kind of treat it like a paint job in a lot of ways. Blowing it off really good right now. I'm going to concentrate and make sure I get in all the holes, all the cracks and crevices, all the channels, all the grooves, all that stuff. There's a lot of places that dust and debris can settle on a pinball cabinet like this, so you got to really be thorough when you're blowing all this stuff off. After I get it blown off good, I'll wipe it down, and then we'll go from there. Wiping it down now. So there's a product in this pump bottle that I'm using called Pinball, and that's a solvent-based cleaner, and I just pump up that bottle, spray it on there, and wipe it off. And that's going to get any oil, dust, anything like that that's accumulated on the surface through the process to date off of there. Blow it off again. I'm just blowing the lint off of there from the paper towels, and should be ready to go. Now on to the head. So this presents a little bit of a challenge. I need to maintain a certain border and make sure that border doesn't get sanded, because the decal that I will use for this sits inside of that border. So I don't want to sand past the areas that'll be covered, but I do want to sand the majority of the area that's going to be covered, for the same reasons I wanted to sand the lower. So I'm just making a border that I can't sand. That's what I'm doing with tape. Pretty much same process as the lower, but of course with that border to keep me from getting into the outer edges of the head. Okay, I blew it off. Now I'm wiping it down. I'm just pretty much exactly what I did on the lower, but it's on the head this time. But we do have that border, so a little bit of a wrinkle there. This is what a cabinet that is ready to decal looks like, at least around here. And we'll just walk around it real quick, and then I'll get to it. Let's get the head decaled first. So I'm tacking it off really good. That's important. I'm going to use the I'm going to call it the semi-wet method to place this decal. The reason for that is because I want to make sure it lands perfectly within the area that I've designated. I don't want it to show even a hint of what's been sanded. But the other reason is symmetry. If I have a 5/8 of an inch border on the back, I want a 5/8 of an inch border on the front. If I have a 1/2 inch border on the bottom, I want a 1/2 inch border on the top. So you're not going to get that kind of perfection without some leeway. And by using the wet method, it does give me a little bit of leeway. So what I've done here, and the reason I call it the semi-wet method, is I've only sprayed the back of the decal. I haven't saturated the panel itself, only a light mist of solution on the back of the decal, just to aid, just so it doesn't just stick. That's all I'm trying to do, and then I'll position it where I want it to go. And coming up here, this will be a little bit of a long section, but I want to make sure it gets demonstrated properly. Coming up here, you're going to see me break out a ruler, and I will use that ruler to really dial this in. I want it to be precise. And right now, I'm just eyeballing it like I can see. It's not even where I want it to be quite yet. Once I get it where it's close, then I'll break out that ruler, and we'll really start to dial it in. And here we go. I'm going to use that ruler, and I'm just going to measure from the decal edge to the edge of the head, wherever it is I'm measuring. And once I get everything symmetrical, then I know it's going to be worth pressing on there permanently. All set, so I can press this thing out really good, and after I get it pressed out good, then I will wipe any moisture off of it. Got the head all set, put that to the side. That one I'll let set an extra day just so the moisture can evaporate, what little moisture's there. Now the lower I'm going to do with the dry method, so that'll be pretty much instant gratification. I can put the decals on it, I can sand the edges, and I can put it together. I don't need to wait for anything. Gonna start with the front. Now this is a high quality set of decals. I've got 3 sets of decals, and I got these a few years ago. This is back when Planetary Pinball Supply had their own in-house art department and made their own decals. They used the next generation process. The colors pop, you know, it has a decent texture to it. They're durable. This actually has 2 holographic stickers on it. One that verifies it's licensed from, I'll just say like Indy 500, and the other just to show that it's a licensed Bally Williams product. Since that time, though, unfortunately, they've gotten out of the business of making their own cabinet art and handed it over to a terrible source, and that source is widely available on eBay, but I wouldn't use any of that shit on it. I would rather have no cabinet decals at all and just have to make the most out of whatever I could do with a cabinet than put those on it. They are just total shit, and I won't use them. So I'm either hunting stuff they used to make or figuring out a workaround and just basically avoiding it altogether. So right now I'm just cutting out my alignment marks. I'll have to measure some stuff and play around with it like you saw me do with the head, but this will be done with the dry method when I'm ready. All right, I've been fussing around with this thing for quite a bit. You didn't see that, but that's what I've been doing, just measuring everything out, trying to get everything symmetrical. You want to be really careful here that you're not going to wind up with a decal where the, like, let's just say where it says Indy 500 or whatever isn't under the coin door frame, or where when you cut out the start button, it's not going to cut into those little slanted art lines, things like that. So there's a lot to consider, and you can't just trust the alignment marks that they give you, if they give you any at all. So I've messed around with this and fooled with this for quite a bit to get it just about where I want it to be. And once I get it there, you'll see me walk over there. I'll grab a weight, throw it on there just to hold it down, and then off I go. I can make sure that it's not going to move when I'm laying the decal out and pulling on it. All right, I'm going to place something on here that's heavy enough to hold it, but not so heavy to where when I'm putting it down, I have to worry about it shifting around. I think that's probably like maybe 30 pounds right there or something, nothing crazy. And it'll do a good enough job. Also, another thing about it is you don't want something so big to where when I'm peeling this decal back that it's in the way. Okay, you'll notice in these next couple clips here that I'm going to be tacking it off quite a bit. The reason for that is because just the act of placing the decal on there, pulling the backing back, kind of gives some kind of static electricity, and that usually pulls some debris out of those holes that you'll never fully get clean, like the coin door cutout hole, start button hole, launch button hole. All those things are dirt magnets, and that static electricity and flopping the decal around like you have to do to put them on kind of acts almost like a vacuum cleaner. It just sucks the dirt right out of there onto the decal. So trying to get the cleanest job you can. You're always going to get a little speck here or there. That's just how it goes, but you want to keep it to a minimum. So you're going to do that by constantly tacking and cleaning. Got the weight off, and then I can go ahead and do the other side. Same deal though. There's where the static electricity comes in, right there. Tag it off, and should be as good as it's going to get. All right, pulling it tight on this side, and I usually keep the decal elevated on the opposite corner that I'm not pressing out. So if I'm pressing out down there, then I got it elevated up here, and I work my way towards that elevation before I press it out. That just gives me an out if the decal's not going on like I want, but it's going on just fine. I'll cut that coin door area out, and then I think I can sand the edges, and we can start worrying about doing the rest of the cabinet. All right, let's sand the edges. I got a hard block. It's probably wrapped with, I think for this right here, the side corners, I usually like to use 220, and it does a nice job of cutting the decal without rounding off the corners. And you don't want to go crazy. You keep sanding and sanding and sanding, you're just going to round the corners off. You just want to basically break the path of the decal, and when you see bare wood, you're done. That's it. Now I've got the dowel wrapped with some sandpaper, and I'm only going from one direction because I don't want to over bevel that hole before I put the sides on, because when I put the sides on, I'm going to be going from the opposite direction. So I'm just gently opening up and cutting that corner leg bolt hole on the front. Blow it off, because all that dust from that sanding is just going to land right in that new decal job on the sides if I don't get rid of it now. Blow it and tack it once again, and then I'll be ready to place the side decal on there. So I got everything cut out and lined up, put the weight on there, and then it's just pretty much a rinse repeat of everything we've done so far, and it has to be included just in the interest of showing the whole picture here. Trim the backing, tack it off. You want to go way past. Don't just tack off what's exposed. Get up under there, because you're going to need to get up under there again and again, and you can never be too clean. There's that same technique. I'm keeping it elevated on that one corner and pressing it out the other way. And then we go to the other side, do the same thing. I like to go across it this way first and try to make sure all my overlaps are good, and then just do kind of like that whole perimeter thing right there. All good. Gonna sand the edges. I have a little bit more coarse sandpaper for that lower edge. You'll see how quick it cuts. That's probably like 180. I like to put a little bevel on there while I'm sanding that bottom edge on a decaled cabinet. Catch the leg bolt holes. Same thing as I did on the front, but now it's the back. Putting some new transformer T-nuts in there, and after that I should be ready to put this on the dolly and start thinking about finishing the edges and assembling the cabinet. Checking the match on the backboard. Yeah, that looks about right. We'll go with that. Simple black corners on this one, so I can just use a nice black paint pen. Not a marker, mind you, but a paint pen. And I think that's a Sharpie oil-based paint pen. Those seem to work pretty good. I use them for a few things here and there. And, you know, it does what it needs to do. No special equipment needed. I'm gluing the speaker standoff in place. It's just getting a basic sound system in this one, nothing fancy. So standard speaker standoff for that. I try to locate all this stuff nice and straight. When you look at the factory ones, man, they'll put those things in crooked. They don't give a shit. I mean, they really don't. And so I'm trying to make sure everything's nice and straight and well secured. There's the power box standoff. Pretty easy one to locate there. And that gives me what I need to hold the speaker and hold the power box. Looks good. Time for some ground braids. So I like to run this stuff nice and neat. I'll use a straight edge and kind of map everything out, and I'll trace it out with a silver paint pen. I like the silver paint pen because if the ground braid doesn't fully cover it, then at least it kind of blends in. It would rub off pretty easily too, but like I said, it's just, I mean, it's better than using bright orange or something, you know what I mean? It's like, you miss that, that's gonna stick out. So it's kind of an exercise in patience, but I like for this to look nice and neat. It's important to me So I'll put a little bit more effort into that. So I won't bore you with too many of these details, but just know that's what's going on. I'm mapping it out. I'm tracing it out. I want everything to be even and symmetrical as much as I can make it. Running the braid now, and it should go on there nice and neat since I have a good path to follow. That's important. I mean, braid isn't one of those things that you can really eyeball. I eyeball it sometimes myself, and I can get it looking pretty good, but never as good as it looks when I trace it out like that. One of the most important things I like about using a new cabinet is I don't have to try to either follow or correct the factory path the way they ran the braid, which is usually just random and sloppy. So what you see there is a really nice, neat run of that. Now I'm putting the transformer backing plate in there, and I'll probably put the metal grill that goes across the back vents in after that. When I do that, I like to eyeball it. I hate it if it's crooked, so I'll probably put a level on it. Yep, putting a level on there, and I'll try to make sure it's good and level, and that helps make sure it's straight. Here come the leg plates and the cabinet protectors. The leg plates on the inside, and then the cabinet protector, which you can't see yet, is going on the outside. Screwing that cabinet protector into the cabinet, and then I'll be ready to score around it. We'll catch that next. Using an X-Acto knife and scoring around this cabinet protector, this just gives a little bit more insurance that that decal isn't going to wrinkle, or at least not wrinkle where you can see it past the leg. That's what that's going to do. It's going to keep it under the leg if it does get distressed. Bouncing around just a little bit here. I have cleaned the transformer, and now I'm going to touch it up. It's a good looking transformer already, so a paint pen just freshens it right up. It gives it a little bit more of a factory look than you would imagine. Now I got a lot of things at my disposal. I could metal etch it. I could do a lot of things. So I'm not doing this to be lazy. I'm doing this because this is the best look I've seen, the most original look of everything I've tried when I'm freshening up one of these transformers. Okay, I can place the transformer now. Looks like I already put the power box in there somewhere along the way. And here we go. There's the transformer. We're getting there. Here come the playfield pivot bushings. Nothing exciting, but they're going back in there. It's all part of the process. There's our lower cabinet. It is ready for some legs. I unpacked all the stuff. This person sent a whole lot of chrome, so I'm going to go over it for not just for their benefit, but maybe for everybody's benefit, because I do see this often, and I wound up having to return a lot of this stuff, and people are like, oh man, I bought all that chrome, why didn't you put it on there? I'm going to go over it. So, and it's not my taste. It's not about, oh, I don't want to put a chrome one on there. It's because some of this stuff just doesn't fit and function like it should. You're buying a bright, shiny object that looks pretty, and you're hoping, but the real world application is usually not what you think it's going to be. So the legs, no problem. Chrome legs, good. This glass receiver that goes on the playfield glass, for the playfield glass, that's perfectly fine. This U channel that's chrome, I'm not now on a personal level, I don't like chrome U-channels on black cabinets. I think they look good on green cabinets or blue cabinets, but I'm not too crazy about them on a black cabinet. But that's fine, that's personal taste. But the two items that are in here as I unpack this stuff that I already know I don't want to install if I can avoid it, and I can't install on one of them. One I don't want to, the other I can't, will be these two channels right here. First of all, I'll go over the one I don't want to. The one I don't want to is this chromed H channel. Looks good in theory, but two problems with this. The first problem is, with it being metal instead of plastic, it's going to be a lot more prone to scratching the inside of the back box every time you install and remove the speaker panel. I can get around that by putting some Mylars inside of there and give it a little bit more protection, but that's one problem. Now, if you have a plastic one and it doesn't fit just like you want it, you can shave it down and make it work, and you don't have to worry about that. But this is set in stone now. It's metal and it's plated. There's no options about basically dialing in the fit. The other problem with it is the thickness of it right here. I found that when I screw these down and I install these, they tend to like kind of wedge. Like, the best way I could put it is when I screw this tight, it puts it in the angle. It doesn't really fit the speaker panel as tightly as it should. And when it gets put in that wedge, now all of a sudden the glass doesn't go in and out of there as easily as it used to or should. And it might even be hard to get in and out of there as a result of that. So I'm not crazy about these. Will use it, but don't like it. That's what I say about these. Now this, I just can't use at all. I think I got a drawer full of these. People send me these all the time, and I never can use one. I've never found one I could use yet. And here's the problem with it. So this is supposed to be a lift channel for the back glass or the translite. Well, the problem with it is this is a WPC game, and a WPC game has an 1/8 of an inch thick back glass. That is at least 1/4 of an inch. So there's no way to use this. This will not trap the translite. Even if you're using a back glass, it won't sit on there because it's too wide. That's too wide. It will not fit any WPC back glass. There is no WPC back glass that this fits. I don't know why they market and sell these as WPC lift channels. They are not. They are absolutely not. Maybe WPC 95 if you got the light tub and all that stuff sandwiched together, but absolutely not WPC. This will not fit. This cannot be used. All right, that's where we're at with this stuff. Let's put what we can on and we'll go from there. Here comes one of my personal favorite milestones, and that's getting the cabinet up on 4 legs again, or maybe for the first time. This will be for the first time for this cabinet. So I'll get this up on 4 legs and we'll go from there. Here come the glass channels for the playfield glass, and those will need to be put on, obviously, before I can put the rails in place. So I'll get those stapled down, then we'll put the rails on. Putting the 2-sided tape on. Now, you don't really want to get, some people make the mistake of getting the strongest, best 2-sided tape in the world. That's a mistake, and I'll tell you why. Because if you ever need to remove it for any reason, now it's really hard to get it off. You're going to probably ruin the side rail or ruin the cabinet art when you take it off. So you don't want to get anything super strong. A playfield rail weighs like nothing, and it sees very little friction or pressure. So you're not, this isn't the emblem to a car that's going to be riding down the road, 75, 80 miles an hour. This is a fixed position part that you just want to put into place. So you don't want anything way too strong here is what I guess you need to know or should know. And so there it is. I got the 2-sided tape on there. Let's throw the rail on there. Checking the rail over good. I've had them send me rails that had dents in them, that had blisters in them, that had burn marks in them. So I'm constantly trying to evaluate these things. And sometimes you'll pick one that looks better on one side than the other. Like maybe you'll see a little something, nothing that you would complain about, but just would look better, say up top than down low, that kind of thing. So you definitely want to inspect your parts and be strategic when you place them. Drilling a hole for the bolt that goes in the lower portion of the rail. I've marked that already. And sometimes I'll drill that, like if it's stainless steel, I got no problem just drilling right through that. But if it's chrome or something with a heavy finish, then I'll usually try to drill the hole, locate and drill the hole first, and then place the rail. So that's what you're seeing there. And I should be ready to place the rail in just a second. I removed the backing for the two-sided tape, and I got my hole located, so this should fit right on there just where I want it. And I'll press it on there good, and I'll do the same thing on the other side. Pretty simple. Got the rails on. Now I can place the glass receiver. I like to do that after the rails are in place because it helps get the proper alignment and the proper look. You got some tolerance here. I mean, you know, there's no specific, as long as the glass goes in and out, doesn't hit anything, then you're good. But I usually kind of eyeball it from the back and make sure I've got kind of that same amount of material showing on both sides or across the back, and that lets me know it's pretty even and straight. Time for the coin door. So I basically just need to break this one down and refinish it. It's in good shape. It just needs a nice fresh finish on it. So we'll do that. I'll get it taken all apart and we'll go from there. I washed this, I've cleaned it, I've prepped it, and now I'm going to metal etch it. Just dust a light coat of metal etch on there. That gives me a better bond for something like this than trying to sand it. What happens when you sand one of these original doors is you lose a lot of the texture that's in there, and then you've got to replace that texture. So nice coat of metal etch on here, should be good to go, and then we'll base coat it. Just going to dust a light coat of black on here. It doesn't need major surgery. It just needs basically a freshening up. And so that's what you're seeing me do. I'm freshening up this coin door. I'm playing around with the gun here. I want to get my bitting pattern right, I guess is the best thing I can call it, and it's got full gloss clear in there, and what I'm looking to do is just mimic that factory like look the best I can, and that's there's a little bit of an art to it. It's kind of random, no two doors will be the same, but it gives the proper look to the door. And there it is. Should look about right once it's built up and put in place, and we can continue on. Door has dried overnight, and I can go ahead and start assembling that. Not much to it. I'll probably need to do a little bit of wiring repair to the door, but nothing major. Pretty basic stuff. I'll get it together real quick and we'll take a look at it after that. And there's the door. So pretty simple. Worth putting on the game now, and we will do just that. I am placing some pieces of dense target foam. So the denser target foam is the black target foam in my experience, and so I'm placing that where the bolts go through the cabinet, and that just kind of keeps the coin door from digging into the cabinet or the decal, much like the cabinet protectors that go under the legs do. But of course, with this being a foam material, it will compress as I tighten the door down. This is a brand new lot bar receiver that I am polishing. There's a few people that make these. One's kind of real factory standard looking, a little bit drab, and then there's the stainless steel one that Manus makes. This is the factory style one. That's what I have on hand today for as far as a new one goes. So I'm hitting it with some metal polish and a buffing wheel to shine it up, make it look good. And so that's what I'm doing there, and then I'll put it in place, then I can test fit the lock bar. Gonna put the lock bar receiver in place, and after I do that, then I will test fit the lock bar, make sure it fits like I want it to fit, and then I can move on to whatever's next. Did a little button reconfiguration on this thing, just some color buttons that work better in my eyes. That green serve ball button that's for the launch, I really don't like that. And so there you go, there it is. And what's next, we'll find out. I'm gonna go with black flipper buttons here because pretty much all the cabinet art's black, and even on the other side it's mostly black in that area, so that's gonna work better than a colored button. Here comes the head. I built that up about as far as it needs to go, and I'll place that on the lower, get it bolted in place, and then we'll throw some boards in there, and I think we'll have a cabinet that's at least pretty much complete overall, but it'll need its wiring. I measured the center out, and now I'm just putting the latch in place. It'll be a new latch and a new catch for that latch, and then the head will be locked in place. Got a fresh batch of service boards to put in this game. I probably am not putting a fresh soundboard in there unless I have a problem with it. They just don't really have a lot of issues, and the driver board has some provisions in place to protect it from resets or power drops. Got all the boards in place, and now I'm tightening them down, and the next thing I'll do is put LED OCD for the GI in, and then we'll see what happens after that. And there are the boards so far. If you're wondering why the battery holder is still on the CPU, that's because the customer requests that it remains on there. So there it is, and we're good to go. is a really long video for you if you're into that sort of thing. I kind of like those short, quick hits type videos like the intro, but I also understand exactly what I'm doing, what's going on around here, and I think it could leave a lot of people that see it just kind of uninformed if they're looking for more information. So I try to throw all that info in this one for you, but man, I gotta tell you, I don't see, my future doesn't involve making a lot of videos like this. I can tell you that up front. I just don't have time for it. It's very time consuming. But with that said, definitely give it a thumbs up if it's worth the effort, and if it's not, don't bother. It doesn't hurt my feelings one bit. I just won't waste my time. That's all it is. So everything's in good order. I think next I'll probably wire the cabinet, and then I'll sand the play field and polish it and put it together. I probably have this thing done in about a week. I'll try to give you another similar style video to capture that, so we make sure that we do this particular project some justice, and you see everything you need to see in this one particular job, and then we move on from there. All right, so I'll see you in the next one.